So we're going to quickly look at the width and height of a canvas. I'm going to hop over to styles, and I'm going to for the canvas element, I'm going to set the border. I think it's border style, and I think if I set it to 1 pixel solid on black, it will draw a black box around the border. So if I refresh my page, we can't see it, but then again, that's the whole screen. So if I start changing the size of my width and height, so let's put in a comment there and a comment there, because I don't want to lose that at the moment. If I set that to 400 and 300, you may wonder where I get these numbers from. I will show you shortly. And if I refresh my page, nothing. So I got a feeling it's, instead of border style, it's just border. There we go. And we can see, so this is 400 pixels wide, 300 pixels high, and I've got a 1 pixel black border around it. And we can see that, we can change it. Maybe if I have a 10 pixel, I think we've got dashed. Maybe I can make it red. This is the styles being applied to a web page. There we go. So we can change the style. I don't particularly like that, don't particularly want that, so let's put it back to 1 pixel, a solid line, and make it black so that we can see it. The next thing I want to show you is sort of the sizes of things. So if I just refresh that, get the black one back. If I change this to be 800, and I don't know, let's say 800, make it a square, you'll see the size of the canvas change, and that's pretty much the total height of the screen. But if we put it back to the inner width and the inner height, we'll be looking at the full screen, and the problem with that is that you might not be able to see it. There you go. You can't really see it. It just looks like the whole web page. So when I'm going to do my program, I'm going to use a small box. I'm probably going to use a 400 by 300 box, so that we can see things on the page. We can see the balls bounce off pretty quickly, rather than wait for half an hour for a slow ball to move across a particle. So that's looking at the width and height. We could sort of move it across, I think. We could set the margins, but I'm not going to be interested in that at the moment. Let's just refresh my page to get the border. What I do want to show you is the object inspector itself. So there we go. If I choose to inspect the page, what I want to show you is this item here. This is telling me everything about my page. The margin that I've got and how big it is, the border and how big it is. Now remember, I set the margin to be 0. Notice it's butted right up against this left hand edge because I set the margin to be 0. If I set that to be 10 pixels, save it and refresh the page, you'll see that the margins on the left side and at the top and at the bottom and the right hand side have all become 10 pixels, and you can see it clearly here. And notice in here that if we highlight or go over it, we see that it highlights the margins of the page, so you can see them really, really clearly. and the size of them. So I've got a margin of 10 pixels, I've got a border of no pixels, I've got no padding, and my page, the entire page, is 705 pixels by 823 pixels. Now I could use that to actually set the size of my page, but I haven't. I've chosen 800 by 400, 400 by 300. But if I go over the canvas, notice that it's only highlighting the canvas here. And if you take a look down here, well, luckily I stayed onto it, it says it's 400 by 300. I'm now looking at the canvas. There is no margin between the black line and where it's going to draw, but it's got a border of 1 pixel. So if you remember, we set it to be 1 pixel solid. So it's got a border of 1 pixel. I can show you that changing too. So if I change that to 2 pixels, save it, refresh the page. There we go, now the border is 2 pixels wide. So this little item here is showing you all the settings of what you've got on the screen. So I'm going to try and teach you a little bit about the inspector as well. I know you've probably used it, as I said, just to change the word Google on a web page or put a silly message on, but really we spend a lot of time in the inspector. It's our way of knowing whether the program's working, whether it isn't, and trying to find out where it isn't working. And notice here I've got the canvas is border 2 pixels solid, so it's giving me all the code that I'm playing around with. So that's my introduction to this one. Let's just put that back to 1 pixel, and in the next video we're going to start looking at drawing something on the screen, which will be quite useful. So let's just put that back. There we go. And back to 1 pixel, 400 by 300, no margin on the actual item, but we need the margin back to 0 pixels because we don't want the balls to sort of bounce from here, or the particles to bounce from here. It won't look right. I want them to bounce from the edge of the screen and off the top and off the bottom. So I want to set that back to 0 so that it looks as though they're bouncing. And I've put this line on so that you've got a visual reference. All you need to do is take that that single statement out of your CSS file and it will be fine. So on to the next one.